Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Briar Harvey. This is the Voices of Neurodiversity on the Neurodiversity Media Network. And today I am here with my fabulous friend, Julie Neale. Julie and I have been friends. She's been a client. I've worked with her, what, 3 years? 4 years now? It's been a
Oh my
while.
goodness. Wow. You might be right, but you still in some ways feel like my new amazing find. But I know we also have a lot of history now too. But I didn't realize it was that long.
It's been a while, my friend. It has been a
Yeah.
while. And I wanted to have Julie on today to talk about her new program, Circle. So start with who you are, what you've been doing, and specifically these circles.
Okay. So I'm Julie Neale, and I'm a life and leadership coach. I come from 15 plus years in youth development and community building. And then motherhood really became for me one of the most transformative experiences, not only as a person and human being, but also in terms of my career direction. After feeling like I got swallowed up whole in motherhood for a while, I had this spiritual experience, which is a whole story in and of itself, of two birds that got trapped into my house and were smashing against the glass, and felt like a metaphor for me of the way I felt trapped, having these dreams and visions I had the name Mother's Quest, and this idea of bringing my experience with holding space for reflection and growth and personal development, specifically to moms, for a long time, and was doing nothing to advance that vision. And the day that I opened the door and let the birds out, I basically put my stake in the ground. I sat down to Facebook and typed a post. I've had this relationship with Facebook where it's become like my place to commit and share and find amazing people like you. And that was in 2016. And I've really been deeply committed to this vision ever since. And it's grown in amazing ways. And one of the things I've created over the years is something called the Mother's Quest Circle. And it's a 5-session coaching experience that I call Spark Your Epic Life, based on some of the things I did during that time when I said yes to myself, that I think really helped to move me forward. And I've now had the privilege of facilitating circles virtually, in person, sometimes for specific groups. One year I partnered with the amazing Nancy Netherland, and we held space for a caregivers group of specifically moms who had kids who had extra needs. And this fall, for the first time, I'm doing what I'm calling the Mother's Quest Circle Next Chapter Edition. And it is for moms whose high school grad kids are off to their next chapter, whether that's college or something else. There are many different paths that young people can take. But in whatever path that is, I know from my experience last year with my now sophomore college son, who you know well, Ryan, that I wish I had a circle of support and a place to land after the drop off. So I pledged that I was going to create that this year, and we get started on Tuesday. But I have a few spaces left. So that's part of what inspired this conversation.
And I think that there's really something about this period of transition. Like we we talk about the empty nest syndrome, right? But we don't talk about how to move through it. And this is so true about so many phases of motherhood. We're sort of vaguely aware that there's a thing that we're going to have to deal with, but we still are learning how to have public conversations around moving through transition, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And in fact, I was talking to a friend this morning who I'm really hoping is going to join the circle. And we were talking about that difference of, kind of getting shoved off the cliff or preparing for it, maybe like getting a little what is that called that you, with the, like a kite that it's not a
Parasail.
parasail. Parasail is what I was thinking, but I wasn't sure if that was right. It's like you can sort of soften the journey or you can feel like you are on a harrowing fall, about to hit the rocks below. And sometimes, last year, I would say my fall experience with my son going off to college felt more like I was about to smash against the rocks. And thankfully, I'm resourceful, and I very quickly put together my net of support, including an amazing therapist that I got to meet with last week after drop off. And I was so grateful now that she's on my team. But I think a lot of times we don't realize what we're going to need. We're so busy focusing on our kids, we don't think about ourselves. We don't know what kind of support we want. We don't know where to begin to find that kind of support. I mean, there's so many reasons. And also, I think moms tend not to want to invest in ourselves. Maybe we will for business, or maybe we will under the guise of I'm getting parenting coaching, but it's all about how I show up. It's for my kid. But Mother's Quest is absolutely about how we make space for ourselves and our own personal growth and development and our own life and our own leadership. And it can be an amazing community. I would love to also just give a little celebratory note about Jody Smith, who is a member of my very first virtual circle. We started meeting in 2018, and when the circle closed, we took our all of our communication to a Voxer channel, and we're all communicating with each other sometimes several times a day on that channel since 2018. And Jody was just included in an anthology about women gathering, and her whole essay, I'm probably going to cry talking about it, her whole essay is about our circle and the transformative effect it had on her, and how much she has looked to it for support on a daily basis, but also all the things that we have shown up to talk with one another about in that channel. Parents dying, kids moving through transition, new career launches, almost anything you can name about the richness and the complexity of our lives, we talk about together there. And that relationship was formed from the circle initially. So you never know who you're going to meet when you say yes to something like this, and how much those relationships might sustain you.
And it's really about being able to form a connection based on a mutual experience, right? That where we're at right now is that a child has gone to college or a job or travel, perhaps. There's lots of pathways here, but it's about where we are in sitting with that relationship with ourselves, because being the parent of an adult is
Mhm.
very different than being a parent of a high schooler.
Yeah, and especially, some people may be parenting an adult and their child is in their home, which I know is true for you. But there's an additional element when you are dropping your child off to another location where you can't knock on their door and hope maybe they'll crack it open for you, or you hope they'll send you back a text and you have some proof of life. There's just a different level of letting go that happens, and different elements of fear that come into the mix, and also more space. I mean, I think the really positive side about it is it's one less person whose meal you're trying to prepare, one less person that you're maybe helping to get from place to place. And so I like to say that in our motherhood journey, there are many windows of opportunity to reflect on ourselves and invest in ourselves, and spark your epic life. And when I say epic life, I mean the kind of life that is the story you want to write, where you're the author of the story, where it's filled with the things that matter to you. And when we're so consumed and busy with taking care of the people around us, we forget sometimes this is our one precious life to live, as Mary Oliver says in that beautiful poem. And so this can be a time that you can seize for yourself to really figure out what matters, what's left undone in your life while your kids are going and having this new adventure. What's the adventure that might be in store for you? So it can also be a really exciting time for us.
And I want to emphasize that I know a lot of folks who have hit this transition and gone into their business, which isn't inherently incorrect, but it's replacing one high
Mm,
need activity with another high need activity rather than creating the supports that allow you to actually spend time with yourself.
that's really interesting. Yes, I can absolutely see that even in myself, that tendency of like, oh, I'll just put all of this energy that I used to put it, for this one child, and I'll just put it in this other thing that is kind of like a baby that I'm trying to grow. And one of the things I love about the Epic Life framework, which in Mother's Quest is both the metaphor that I talked about in terms of like the kind of life you want to live, but it's also an acronym mnemonic for the guideposts that I think help us to live that life when we're raising our children. And it's very comprehensive. So E is engaging mindfully with our kids. P is the passionate and purposeful impact in the world where our work might show up. I is investing in ourselves, and it's paying attention to our self-care and the things that bring us joy, things like hobbies, which I know you've been mastering. I love hearing about the things that you are doing in your fun free time. And then C is connected
Grandma
to
hobbies.
grandma hobbies. That's right. I love that. C is connected to a strong support network, and that's about building relationships and making space for our friends. So I like that the Epic Life framework gives us this really clear way to pay attention to all of these different elements. And the being mindful with our kids is immensely important still. Because of course we want to be an anchor and a foundation for them, but we also want to give them the space that feels like the right amount of healthy space for them to learn and grow and make mistakes. And so if we can be thoughtful about how to show up with and for them, that's also really important during this transition.
So let's talk about the community building aspect because this is, I think, hardest for us, right? That even when we have opportunities to build connection, we struggle with this. How do we find these pieces in our community?
Say a little bit more what you mean, like physically, how can we build community
Yes,
or
physically building community. Because this
well,
circle is online.
this will
And
be
there,
virtual. Yeah.
right. You've already acknowledged the difference fundamentally between the in-person work and the virtual work. And you shouldn't neglect either side of that. But since this particular circle will support you virtually, let's talk about how we build those supports physically in person.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like it's something need to work on more because I've had so much success in building these amazing relationships with moms online and all over the country and even in some other countries. Sometimes I forget to invest here. A couple things I've done more recently. There is a mompreneur group in my own town of San Mateo, and I've started going to those meetings, which sometimes I would blow off. It's on my calendar, and I'd be like, "Oh, it's coming and it's going," but this time I have made it a point to go, and I also signed up to present at one of them, which I did recently. My husband and I love to play pickleball. It's also a great source of stress relief so that you can smash the ball when you're worried about your kid. And so we're starting to go. We have a club like a fitness club. It has pickleball courts, and we started to go to some of those social events or just show up and see who else we can play with. I feel like I'm Jewish and belong to a temple, but I feel like that's an untapped resource for me and something I want to lean into a little bit more. And then like reaching out to my friends. So there's been a lot of like, hey, can you come over for dinner? Tell me a night when you're available. Reached out to another friend the other day and said, like, will you come walk Luna to the dog park with me so we can talk? And then, this again is not, I don't know if this counts, but I have local friends who live near me, but that I call while I'm walking my dog. So it's not the FaceTime, but there is this knowledge that they're literally in your community when you're building those
Mhm.
connections. And I could call her and say, I need you to come over right now.
It's the category of errand friend, and I confess that I'm terribly
Mm.
bad at cultivating this. But especially in this transition, it's helpful to have someone that you can go and do perfectly inane things with and have a conversation that meanders, right?
Yeah, I love that. I think I need more errand friends, so I might put that out there. Maybe in that mompreneur group.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's something. It's definitely an area. It might be an intention I plant. Part of the experience of the Mother's Quest Circle is we get to a point where we all plant an intention, and I love to use the metaphor of a real plant. And when I'm in person with a client, I'll actually get a bulb or a seed, and we'll plant something, and then when they announce symbolically what that plant is representing in terms of a real intention in their life, then they can nurture it and water it and watch it grow, while hopefully that intention also grows in their life. This time around in the circle, I always choose an intention as well. And so I'm thinking maybe my intention will be around this because I love this idea.
So, talk more about the self care piece. And I feel like this is unfair because I know personally that this is a place where you have some waffle, but also this is the part where we get to prioritize ourselves instead of a child, right? So, what does that look like?
Well, do you want to know more about how it shows up for me or just in general for
For
me?
you.
Yeah. I have things I'm working on every year. I think I like find my old journals and I'm like, oh yeah, 10 years ago, still same thing I'm working on. Like I've had some success in some areas and some things that are still hard, like drinking water and going to bed earlier, which I know know a lot about. Um, I can go in and out. I mean, I do think getting clear about what it is you want to shift. For me, it's often not doing it alone. So, for instance, I have this amazing integrative doctor who was a podcast guest who consults with me, and she helps me think about like what are those things like the getting ahead on the meals, which you've helped me with too. Um, Finally, going and getting my sleep apnea test to see if that's an issue. uh, so many things. So I find that part of it is like staying in the game, like not letting go. Like I just haven't given up, even when these things feel hard or I can feel frustrated that I'm not making progress. I still believe that I can change. And sometimes those changes are incremental and I can still celebrate them. Like, for instance, I am a major night owl and, used to go to bed many nights past one or past two. And I have an Aura ring that now tracks my sleep. And I know when I've had a night that's really not good, and it helps me course correct. And I'm now definitely going to bed more nights earlier than I was before, which doesn't mean I don't slip and have a really late night. But sometimes, I think that in general, the trend is moving in the right direction. And I think it's really important to celebrate those little steps. Um, I guess another example is thinking about things that you might really love. So, for instance, I started using a sauna, which is not something that was part of my life before, which just goes to show you like life can bring you new surprises. I loved the warm feeling and the like releasing. You sweat so much, and I would just like think about what am I letting go of. And I loved it so much that I was able to get a sauna in my own backyard. Definitely like saved up a lot of my Mother's Quest income went. It was something I did for myself from some money I had saved up. And now actually my husband and I often go in together. We really enjoy it. I can go in on my own when I need some quiet space. And I know that it has like a range of health benefits. Some of them we don't know for sure. But you can tell when you feel better about something. So I'm so grateful I invested in that for myself. And now it's something I can go to multiple times in the week when I feel like I need to relax and de-stress.
I think you said something there that is key. All of these things are investments in yourself and in your long-term personal development.
Definitely. I mean, that's why I love the I in Epic. Invest in yourself. I think, and it shows up in so many ways. I mean, it can show up in, I'm going to take out a business loan because I believe in this vision I have for this work I want to do in the world. It can show up as, I really need a break. And I'm going to ask, I'm going to go make a trip with my best friend and get out of town. And sometimes it's little too. Like I'm thinking so much about this lesson I keep learning, especially if you're kind of a primary caregiver and not the sole breadwinner in your household. You can fall into this feeling of like, oh, I don't deserve time for myself. And so I've had many moments. I think COVID was a time where there was like the burden on women was immense. And I've had other times coming up against this where I have to realize like, no, I need to claim time for myself. And it's not something I need to ask permission for, but I do need to be clear about what I need and to make those agreements with my partner. So sometimes it's around the time that you need.
Right. Investment is not just in the money, it's in the time and it's in the energy, which here too plays out in different ways, right? It's not enough to invest money and time if we don't have the energy to actually follow through with what it is we want to be doing for ourselves.
That's absolutely true. And one of the things I love about the Mother's Quest Circle experience, we start with an exercise that a lot of people may have done before. It's a meditation where you visit your future self 20 years from now. Have you ever done that, Briar?
With you, Julie.
Aha. So I find that to be one of the most magical things that we can do, to be able to get the long-term view and really see like, who's this person I'm becoming? What is that life that's like the most positive version of the life I want to build look like? And to feel like you can almost already taste and feel it and attain it, and then know that that's where you're headed. I think at various points in my own life, that has given me a tremendous amount of energy. It's like a reset, and it's very inspirational. And you know what matters. Like you start to course correct and know, like, where do I really want to be headed right now? So sometimes it's, energy isn't necessarily like, oh, I need to eat differently, like, although that's important. But sometimes it is creating space to reconnect with yourself, which the circle is a beautiful way to do.
And this is very challenging for mothers in general, but especially in this transitory time because it's the loose ends, right? You've been doing this thing for so many years that it just becomes a part of your existence. And now we have to set that aside. So, how do you create space for this next iteration of who you are?
Well, I think you have to, it starts with saying yes to yourself. That, like that moment where I had when I let the birds out, and I'll say it's like putting your stake in the ground. There's that quote. I think that nobody knows who to attribute it to. It's about the time has come when the pain of remaining tight in the bud is worse than the pain it takes to bloom. I'm not getting it exactly right. And I know it's attributed to somebody, but that person didn't actually write it. But I think there's that like paying attention internally to that feeling of like, this no longer feels like manageable. This way in which I'm suppressing myself and my dreams, or not making space for the things I know that matter, starting to become like unbearable and almost worse than what's required to try to shift. So I invite people to like connect to that. Sometimes we talk about it as like listen to the whispers. It's great when you can listen to it at the whisper level and not the like blaring in your ear level. I think that realizing you don't have to do it alone is so helpful. And so I'm always like keeping my eyes and ears open for who can help me. I think that's one of my like great strengths in the world. Um, you know the story well, that for a long time I would say I'm a writer and I wanted to publish a book. And one year Ryan said, like, if you say you're a writer, you need to do more than write Facebook posts. And I was like, screw you. And then also the next day, I think I saw the advertisement for the tiny book course, go from idea to published book in 90 days. And I was like, oh yeah, that's it. I'm going to say yes to this dream, and I know how I'm going to do it, because I'm going to do it in a way that's manageable for me, and I'm not going to do it alone. And there ended up being 5 other Mother's Quest members that came along and published their books too. And so that's the other beautiful thing, that when you say yes to yourself and to your dreams, and you invite other people in, or you model it for yourself or your kids, you then light the way and inspire other people too. So it's also a really generous act to step forward and claim space for yourself.
I think
Mm.
I really like that. Claiming space for yourself is a generous act. Okay, Julie, starts Tuesday. How do people get involved?
Okay. So there's a link. I probably should know. I can get it to you, and maybe you can put it in the comments or the chat. Um, there's an application, but it's very brief, and it's really more a chance for me just to see what it is that you're looking for, to make sure it's a match. We definitely have spaces available. It's right now it's pay from the heart. So that idea is that there's a couple different levels based on what's doable for you. And I also have partial and full scholarship spots. So for me, it's a huge value that this experience is accessible. And so anybody that feels like they can invest their time, I want to be able to have come and be a part of this. But we are also an intimate circle, so no more than 6 to 8 is the sweet spot. So when I am full, I will close it. And hopefully I'll do this next chapter edition again, but it will come around once a year, just in the fall. So if there are any other moms listening right now and this is calling to you, I encourage you to listen to the whisper, and definitely go check it out, because the ship is sailing soon. Tuesday. It's
Tuesday.
10 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time. And I can, when you click the link, you'll see the dates. There are 5 of them. I think we meet weekly for the first 3 weeks. And then as we're putting these intentions we set into our life, there's more space to integrate. And then we come back together to close and celebrate and capture all the learnings and the lessons from this experience. What I also like about this process is that once you've gone through it once, it's actually a process you can come back to again and again whenever you need it.
All right, my friend. I'm excited for you. Y'all, if this is a transition you are finding yourself in, I encourage you to take a look. We will leave the application in the show notes and in the comments. Thank you all
Prior.
so much for being here. Yes.
Would it be okay? That was my alarm telling me I have to go pick up my other son, but I have 1 more minute. If it would be okay
Say
to
one
share
more
just a little
thing.
bit more about what else is available to people, because there may be people listening that are like, I'm not at that transition, but Mother's Quest sounds kind of cool. So very quickly, I'll say mothersquest.com. You can go and see all the other things that are going on. mothersquest.com/community is the link to join the free Facebook group, which is filled with so many amazing moms like Briar. I have a podcast that is almost 100 episodes old, and just so many incredible conversations with change-making mothers. What else? And there's a Mother's Quest planner that will be coming out. The sales for the 2024 planner will be coming out soon, and that comes with bonus monthly planning sessions with me and others Quest community members on Zoom, which has been really magical, which I started last year. So many ways to get involved. Mother's Quest is here for you.
All right, y'all. We will see you all soon. Julie, thank you for being here. You are a joy and a delight.
Thank you, Briar. I appreciate you so much. There are no words to express it fully.